Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new and emerging chess prodigy in the world of the 64 squares. And you may have heard of him before. His name is Manny Pacquiao, the icon from the Philippines and one of the most accomplished boxers of all time. Normally, when I make chess prodigy videos, it's like an 8-year-old kid that you've never heard of. Now, let me give you a little bit of context of where this all comes from. A couple of weeks ago, here in September of 2024, iShowSpeed, very popular streamer, went to the house of Manny Pacquiao and they live streamed a chess game. I made a video about that and it got 1 million views. The crazy thing about that video is over 40% of the people who watched it, which never happens because most of my viewership is skewed toward the United States, over 40% of those viewers are from the Philippines. So I imagine there will be some viewers from the Philippines who watch this as well. Shout out to all of you. That was an interesting game. Speed was obviously a newer chess player, and at the end, Manny demonstrated his really strong chess skills by checkmating him with a pawn which Speed had to choose. Well, today Manny has done it again. Against another legend, not iShowSpeed, but Dwight Howard, the NBA player who now I think plays overseas. I don't know exactly where he plays. And this is not the first time that they have played against each other, but this is the first time they basically filmed a chess game from start to finish. This was played just moments ago, like earlier this week. And then I was watching Dwight Howard on Dancing with the Stars because he's on Dancing with the Stars right now. I was like, oh my God, did he travel like Los Angeles to Philippines or like, I mean, just a wild commute. So I'm going to show you this game. It was a pretty tense game for a while. And I hope you enjoy. I mean, what more can I say? And again, shout out to everybody watching from the Philippines. There are, I love the fact that chess is so global. And I've talked about it a lot. I have had sponsors turn down my YouTube channel because I don't have a big enough American audience. Like, chess is so international. Speaking of international, there will be a Gotham Europe tour in May of 2025. So stay tuned if you're in Europe or in London. We're doing a Europe tour. So it's going to be pretty sick. So Dwight Howard, Manny Pacquiao, the game begins. Dwight Howard opens with f4. I don't know if I recommend this move for new and improving players. I don't think opening the king is the best strategy, but this is the bird, and if you follow it up with a knight move and then putting your bishop here and quickly castling, it's not so bad, but you do have to be a bit careful. I always tell a funny story here of some of you have heard the story, some of you have not. I once knew some people who taught this to some 5- and 6-year-olds at a school chess tournament. And the grandmaster coach of the other school discovered that they were playing this opening, so he tricked them by doing this. Pawn to e5, right? And so the kid was like, that's free, but I was taught to do all of this, so I'm going to go here. And then the game ended, pawn takes, mate. And the poor child who learned how to play the bird lost the game in 3 moves and proceeded to cry. Then that child was educated and was told, hey, when they do this, you gotta take. So guess what happened? The schools played against each other later in the tournament. And the kid had learned. He learned. He took the pawn this time and he knows that he has to go here, 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 it's, develop his pieces, etc. But the enemy grandmaster coach was a step ahead and taught his student queen h4 check, pawn to g3, and one of the cruelest moves you will ever see in your life, bishop to e7. Now, if you don't take the queen and just keep developing, you're winning. But the young child took the queen and lost this game in 4 moves. At that point, you fire the coach and you quit chess. That's or one or the other, or both. So just be a little bit careful. Be a little mindful. Be a little demure. Whatever the kids say nowadays. Just be careful. Manny plays d5. By the way, Dwight was already like was shook. He was like, Manny, what are you doing? G3. Knight f6, and now you don't want to put this knight in the center here because black can actually attack it right away. You got to be very careful getting your knights attacked by central pawns like this because your knights are going to have to go galloping around. Since white already kind of weakened this position, you have to strengthen this side of the board and castle. Knight c3, bishop f5, and here's something very, very funny happens. So on camera, what happens is bishop h3 offering a bishop trade. Manny goes bishop e4, just testing how jet-lagged Dwight is. And Dwight was about to go here and then proceeded to play this move and lose the rook. And then I was like, oh no, it's going to be another easy game for Manny. But then something happens. The camera like resets. There's like a moment it cuts, and then the board comes back and looks like this. And I recreated the game because I'm so smart. No, I mean, I just watched the video, and then when I saw this position, I was like, oh, wait, the rook is back, and the bishop is gone, and this pawn is here, which means they redid this moment, which is very nice of Manny, of course. Like, I think Manny just wants a competitive game. He doesn't want to, like, trick his opponents. He doesn't want to. So I think he didn't want Dwight to blunder in the opening, and Dwight was going to go here, but he made a mistake. So I think they just replayed this moment. So there was this capture. Now, I don't exactly know how they got to that position. Like, a lot of this video here was recreating the game. I think it was something like this. The bishop came out. The bishop came out. Manny, very principled, by the way, always developing his pieces to the middle of the board. The knight is pushed back. Dwight played c4, something along these lines. And this was the position. So black is better here. Actually, at this very moment, white has an advantage. Because, so Dwight actually has a better position here against Manny. If he targets this pawn is a major problem for white. It's not letting white develop, but it's actually really hard to protect. Like, for example, if black plays f5, here white employs the en passant rule, which white would have had to review. And now the bishops are open, right? The queen is open. And if you win, you know, a couple of pawns here, you are cooking. You are completely winning with white. You play knight out, castle this way. You have a huge attack brewing on this king. But you have to do that, and if you let this pawn survive, then you're not going to get easy development. So rook c1 is played, and like how quickly the game can turn around. If you look, here the position is 0.4, so white has a slight advantage if you go after this pawn. But now, if you wait, now it's -2. Now black is completely winning. Why is black completely winning? Because now you are out of time to attack this pawn. I mean, chess sometimes, you know, just like in basketball, one shot, boxing, one punch, whatever your reference there is. And unfortunately here now Dwight makes it up. He can't develop his knight here, so he wants to develop his knight here, which makes a lot of sense. So he plays e3. The problem is this move, and anytime you move a pawn in chess, everybody watching this, right? You might be new. By the way, if you're like new, whether you're from the Philippines or anywhere, after this, go watch like a how to play chess video. Go watch how to win at chess. Go watch you know, a gambit video, fried liver. Literally, just go to YouTube, type fried liver. Maybe add chess, because I don't know, maybe fried liver will give you some other stuff, but. You will learn about chess. It's actually not as hard as you think. Anyway, one of the things about chess is that every time you make a move, you know, especially with a pawn, you make something stronger, but you also make something weaker. And Manny just gets in there. I mean, he just like a machine. You know, he's like, all right, I'm not gonna mess around anymore. I see this weakness, and 3 things for white are under attack. Bishop f1 might be the best move, you know, just to stop that and lose this pawn. Dwight goes here. He attacks the knight, but as oftentimes happens, we actually attack something that wanted to make another move anyway. So he attacks this, knight to d3 check, king to e2. Now a question, would you rather take the rook with a check, or would you rather take the bishop attacking the queen? There is only one right answer, and it is taking the bishop. If you thought taking the rook with a check, you are not completely wrong. But I will tell you, this move is -6, according to the engine, and this move is only -2.5. And the reason is you lose a very powerful knight when you do this. So you got 5, you lost 3, so your advantage is 2, and you don't have a knight anymore, and white actually can mate you in 2 moves, if you're not careful. However, if you take the bishop for free, and then you go back, not only did you keep the knight, you also got 3 for nothing. So actually 3 for nothing is better than 5 for 3, all right? I know you didn't expect to do math, but you know, sometimes in chess we have to do a little bit of math. So the rook is hanging. Again, throughout this video of them playing, the camera would cut, so there would be 4 or 5 moves played. I'm gonna try to recreate that for all of you. So around here, the next position is seen a little bit later. I basically recreated it. The rook moved out of the way. Manny was like, okay, free pawn. He's a very principled man. He's going to take the pawn. The queen goes to a2, and the bishop goes to b4. And the next cut is even more drastic. So I basically think Dwight moved his bishop and tried to create a pawn attack here, because really, when you're down in chess by 4 points of material, you can't just sit around. You've got to do something. And here, there's a very strong blockade on the position. It's very tough for White to make a move. So I think Dwight went bishop here. Now, Manny thought for a little while here. He has many, many good moves. Many good moves. He has many, you might say he has many good moves. He brings out his queen. He's very good at these slow improving moves that don't blunder anything. Dwight goes for a king attack with h4, trying to obviously open up the position. This is very smart, I have to say. And now Manny does a reroute. He brings his rook to the square that his queen was, and then he's going to move his knight to where his rook was. So queen slides out, rook slides out. Knight. He plays chess the way he boxes. You know, no wasted movements. Like, you turn the hip this way, the arm comes up, and then you roll this way, you know, and then this is my, you know, my boxing elo is like 400, but no wasted movements. Everything is going. If the body moves, you know, you move everything. No limb is left out there, you know, you don't punch and then not get it back. Like, everything is fluid. Everything is really nice. Dwight here plays king f1. The idea is to bring the knight into the game. Manny slides the knight back to f8. Dwight moves the knight forward, and Manny locks in the bishop with the move pawn to c5. So Black is just making improving moves. White doesn't have a whole lot going on here. And unfortunately, when your position is bad and when you are dominated, no disrespect, but this is a very tough position to play with White, you try to get some counterplay, right? You try to make some forward moves. For example, queen a4. It's a forward move. You're trying to get into the position. The problem is every time you move something, you make something stronger, you make something weaker. That queen used to protect that square. Manny does not hesitate. Knight gets in, and that knight feasted because it forks the queen and the rook, and now it takes, and now it takes. Now here, something weird happens. The next time that we see the board, we see this position. Admittedly, I have no idea how that happened. I tried to recreate it. So basically, after knight takes d1 and queen takes d1, the rook came in and the rook went there, and that's the only thing that changed in Black's position. Like rook d2, again, if you notice, rook d2, and where I'm going to pick the game back up is here. So the rook just came and then this rook went up. So I don't know how that happened, but I tried to recreate it with silly moves like rook b8, rook h3, rook c8, h5, and rook d8. I don't know how that happened, though. They must have slid their pieces somewhere, but this was the position here. So I guess somehow they made it to this position. As we see, Dwight is still trying to make improvements. Let me tell you something. Recreating a chess game while watching a video and not knowing the moves, not the easiest thing in the world, but I managed to do it. Very nice move here. Slick move. Dwight here was complimenting Manny, calling him very slick. Right, rook d3, looking for the queen. The queen moves out of the way, and Manny picks up another pawn. I mean, at this point, it's just a matter of technique. Meaning, Manny is up a rook and 3 pawns. He's up 8 points of material. The way you win this, you make some trades, you play with the A pawn, right? You try to queen, and you just protect your king. Knight goes to c1, and here, I actually don't know if Manny here was throwing Dwight like an opportunity to make a comeback, or if he blundered. Manny is human. He's allowed to make mistakes. Manny saw a king and knight and went rook d1 check, and in all of this chaos, there is this bishop, and Dwight scoops up the rook. So Manny's still winning, but that was a big loss of material. He just straight up lost the rook. But he played his next move so quickly, I have no idea if he thought like this was part of the plan. Maybe Manny has the best poker face of all time. He just very quickly played this move. Again, I don't know, because Manny at this point is playing a lot of people. He is stronger than a lot of his opponents, so maybe he's looking for a more close game. You never know. There's nothing wrong with that. Or if he blundered. If he blundered, he blundered. That's pretty, you know, that good spot by Dwight. He spotted that really quickly, by the way. Rook b1. Now a nice move again, defending the knight and attacking the rook. The rook goes to the corner. Why is Black still winning? Black has 3 extra pawns, and they are not just any pawns. One of them is 4 moves away from becoming a queen. So it's a very dominant position. Knight goes to b3. The rook goes to a3. And now a very nice idea, centralizing queen. By the way, this is the top move of the engine. So from this position, you may ask Black, like, a second move of the engine, I should say. But basically, how does Black make any progress here? His pieces are sort of locked. The knight is out of the game, but the queen now sees the entire d file. Very nice move. Now the queen is powerful, playing the game. Rook to e2, and the queen comes into d. This is a very nice move from Manny. Queen d3. He's not afraid of trading off his queen. because this would attack the rook, and also the pawn is now 2 squares from queening, and now his pawns are just too powerful. White can't defend against all these pawns. Queen d3 is a very nice move. Oh, queen b2, and that's a blunder. Here, Manny was going to play pawn to a4, but he spawns that the queen used to protect the bishop. By the way, common motif. You see how this comes up every single time? Every time you make a move, you got to think, what was my piece doing before? It was defending the bishop. So now queen takes d1. King f2. And unfortunately, you lost this, and now you're losing this. And Manny does not hesitate. Again, does not hesitate, picks up the material. Queen goes to e5, rook d3. But the best move here is to team up on the first rank. If you team up on the first rank, the white king has about 5 more moves max. And it's just over. King's got to make a run for it. Give a check. King's got to make a run for it. You give a check. If the king comes here, the rook comes in. It's bad, so you got to go here. Queen f3, and then, all right, I mean, rook g1 is mate, bishop e1 is mate. Bishop e1 is a forcing move because it's a check. This is not a forcing move because it's not a check, but white doesn't really have much. The only way white can stop checkmate is by sacking the queen, giving a check, and then here pleading and maybe bribing the opponent. So that's not going to happen. Rook d3 instead. And so here something interesting happens. Again, I don't exactly know what took place. There was some piece shuffling. The next time you see the camera is here. Takes. And then Dwight here plays queen h1. And then the camera just cuts completely to this position. So I don't know what happened. I don't know how that took place, but the camera cuts here. We don't need the evaluation bar. We know that black is winning. So I guess to get to this position, Manny must have won these pawns because they're gone. And he traded the queen and the rook, which is exactly what you should do here with black. You should trade off white's only 2 pieces. He obviously did that. He might have even gone here, by the way, rook d2, like this. This is probably what he did. I don't know how his b-pawn got lost. I have no idea. I mean, maybe it was like queen b1, you know, and then, I mean, obviously it was like 20 moves. But in this position, Manny did the thing. What is the thing? He looked at his opponent, and he said, which pawn do you want me to checkmate you with? I've never heard a bigger flex in my life. Like, I gotta start doing this to my opponents. I gotta ask them, like, which pawn do you want me to checkmate you with? And Dwight goes, this pawn. Because I have a pawn in the way. I get the logic. Obviously, black will win the pawn and then try to promote with this pawn, or, you know. So he says this pawn, and Dwight is like, bro, there's no way he's gonna mate me with this pawn. There's just no way. If he does, I'm gonna walk back to the United States. I don't think you can do that. I think that would require probably walking through water, which I'm not sure that's... So yeah, Dwight is like, there's no way he's gonna do it. Yeah, I'm really starting to love this challenge that Manny issues to people who visit his house. One day, by the way, my goal, if anyone from Team Pacquiao watches this, I got an email in the description. I'll follow Manny on Instagram too. Hit me up. Let's play some chess. Maybe Dwight will dunk on me. Also, there is chess boxing, which is half chess, half boxing. I mean, Manny would be the world champion of that because Manny would at least survive the first round of chess, and then he would kill whoever he boxes. Oh man, that would be fun. I'll do a little bit of pad work with Manny, then we play a little bit of chess. So Manny plays h5. He gives up the knight because it doesn't matter. The pawn is a runaway pawn, and at this point, the camera's teleporting all over the place. So I try to recreate, like an archaeologist finds fossils and tries to recreate, you know. So you know, I'm gonna do that. So first he makes a queen. The queen is the best piece to make because it's a freaking queen, but also it's very good at cutting off the king and edging the king all around the board and then getting it like to c2, for example, right? So king e6, e4, king d6, e3, king c7, e2, king b6, e1 rook. That's interesting. I think he promoted to a rook because there's no other queen. Like, I think he already has a queen. I think the board itself does not have an extra queen, which is funny, but also, like, it doesn't matter. This is going to be just fine. Now Manny's got to get the king out of here because he's got to mate with the c-pawn, so he has got to, you know, do something like this. And actually, again, I don't know how this happened. The board kept teleporting, but I think this is what he did. He brought his king, he took this pawn, And now he needs to sneak the king back this way. And I think what happened is something like this. He forced the king out of the position with checks, and then he put the king on the second rank, and now this is very nice. So what he's got to do, he's got to mate with the c-pawn, and he's got to cut off the other squares. So the pawn has to be on c2, the king's got to be here, right? It's like filling in the gaps of a puzzle, and then you've got to take away the other square. So king c4, okay, king b1. The best way to do this is to lock the king on the second rank. So queen goes to d6, rook e2 check, and now the king is on the first rank. So now we put the king here. It's always going to be easier when the king's only got one legal move, and now we play c4. So king c1. Again, I don't exactly know how this took place, but it took place somewhat like this. You need to play c2 with the king somewhere here, and you need the king to not be able to move anywhere. So he moves his rook away. He moves his rook away, right? So the king can never attack the rook. King goes here. I think here Manny spent some time calculating. So I think he played something like pawn to a4, something like this, king c1, gave a check, went here. Why did he do that? Because he wanted the king to have access to that square. So he wanted the king to have some flexibility, right? King d1, queen e5. Now the king goes here. And now he's like, okay, the king is going to go there. I'm not going to let the king go back this way. King a2, shouldering the king. And now it's easy. All the king has is these two squares. So you just need to make sure the king goes to d1, c2 is mate, and the king can't go to c1. How do you make that happen? You play c3, king c1, and you can win here in a couple of ways. You can play bishop a3 check and c2, or check here, and c2 is mate. And he did it. The madman actually did it. He beat him with the c-pawn. From this position, he said, pick the pawn you want me to checkmate you with. And Dwight was like, I'm going to pick the c-pawn because I have a pawn there. There's no way he's going to be able to take the pawn. And Manny did exactly that. He made a queen, used the queen, right, to force the king, bounce the king around. And king b3. This is very methodical. You know, using the king as a shouldering method. And then, I mean, that is... Whew, he's got some good technique. So I'm really enjoying this Manny Pacquiao chess journey. I hope more people visit his house, and I hope more people play him, and maybe one day in the future it will be me. It's a far flight, but, you know, it would be cool. I might need to do the pawn thing back to Manny, though. It's unclear to me even how strong Manny is. He's clearly like, I think he's probably like 2,000, 2,100 strength. He plays very, very well, but because he's playing so many people who he's kind of taking it easy on, it's hard to get a gauge of his skills. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he plays on chess.com and we have an actual answer to this question. But I thought this was very fun. That's all I have for you today. So shout out to everybody watching from all over the world, whether it's Philippines, US, London. Did you know that London is the city that generates the most views for me anywhere in the world every single month? So if you're from London, shout out to you. If you're from England, shout out to you. Yeah, that's all I've got for you right now. Get out of here.